So many questions about how we handled this when my son was a baby, so I'm going to try to cover that here. This method that you're seeing here is called soaking and scraping, since that's what it is, and we use a pedicure knife to do the removal because the callus is so thick. However, when he was a baby, as you'll see in pictures in a minute, his skin was a lot thinner, and so my aim was just to keep it gently exfoliated and moisturized at all times, which is how my parents handled my skin when I was a baby as well. So here you'll see we're removing these huge thick layers, but after a bath every day when he was a baby, I would use what's called a table knife or butter knife, a spreading knife, to just scrape away anything that was really soggy and loose, and then also use a pumice stone or a nail file to gently sand the skin down so that it was at a manageable level. Here his hands are when he's only a few months old. You can see there's not callus all over them. It's just starting to come in, and my job was just to try and get any dead excess off as much as possible. Babies have their hands and feet in their mouths all the time, so moisturizing them wasn't a big issue, except for at night. I would put lotion on before he would go to sleep so that they would stay moisturized all night long before the next morning. But I also didn't want him eating lotion all the time, so during the day I just kind of let him do it himself with his spit. It might sound gross, but it's true. Here he is at 2 years old, and surprisingly, I don't have a lot of photographs of his feet during his toddler years. Mostly they were lotioned in socks, but here I happened to catch him in his diaper on the chair reading a book. And these are what his hands look like. You can see what the skin looks like if you don't shave it. It just becomes very thick, slightly hard, although you can still moisturize it, very little sensitivity to texture. But that's all we did. Later in life, it was time to start shaving, which is what you're seeing here, me shaving his almost 7-year-old foot with a callus shaver. I was very scared to do this when he was a baby, but there came a point around the time he was 3 years old when it was finally time to start taking it down. His hands were getting extremely filthy, running around playing outside and in the backyard all the time and getting his hands really dirty. And the skin, especially when it's thick, is really hard to clean, all those cracks and crevices, and it stains easily. So although this is how well I can do it now and how well he tolerates it now, this is a picture of him when he was 3, the very first time we shaved his hands. Disregard that filthy hand. We had literally been playing in the park that day, and that is what the skin looks like. So I looked at his hands one day and went, we're ready for this. But I was very timid, and you can see the after pictures. It wasn't the best shave. Could have been better. But my goal was just to take off the bulk, the excess. I used the hangnail clippers on his tiny little fingers and around the edges for details. And then I did just use the shaver to get as much of the bulk skin off as I could. And if you've seen any of my videos now, you can see that my technique is a lot more refined. And he is also a lot more tolerant and interested in it than he was when he was 3 years old. This is now 6 years old. His hand was soaked in a shower for 15-20 minutes before shaving. Not long enough like the foot soak to where his skin is soggy and hard to shave, but not completely hard either, so that we can gently come in and remove it with the callus shaver. And at 6 years old, coming up in a second, is the after shot of his hands, and you can see how much better of a job I do shaving. This is mostly because he will sit still for it longer, but also just due to practice. Doing someone else's hands was very foreign to me when I first began this. And here is his foot before we did the foot soak yesterday. A little stained and filthy, but I'm scrubbing the oils off so that the water will absorb better in the soak. And this is what his feet look like after, which we just saw yesterday. Nice and smooth. Such a better job compared to how I did when he was 3 or 4. Looking good, and I continue to improve my techniques every time, and he continues to be more interested and more tolerant every time as well. So I feel like it's just an upward journey from here.